One of the issues that most worries exporters and potential exporters is that of language and culture. Um, a little story about my early exporting days. I was in the Frankfurt Fair. I'd driven down in my car. One evening I took a couple of friends out. We went to a restaurant. We decided we needed to park up and find where our car was later, so we looked to find the street name. We duly did, remembered it, went off to have something to eat, and when we came back, everywhere we went, we found the same street number. We'd remembered Einbahnstrasse. Now, for those of you who speak German, you will know that's one-way street. We knew the word Strasse meant street, but we didn't know what Einbahn was, so we were in trouble. Now, nobody expects any English person, any person of any language ability, frankly, to know every language in the world. But it is important to think about language because, you know, if you want to be sold something, I certainly want to be sold something in my own language. I don't want to have a German or a French or an Italian person coming to the UK and selling to me in German, French or Italian. I expect them to adapt to my market. So why would we expect everybody to speak English? Professor Foreman Peck of Cardiff University has recently come up with a startling statistic, and that is that he believes that the UK loses up to £48 billion of business due to our inability to speak a foreign language. Now, I doubt that it's 48 billion actually, but I think it's a very, very big figure, and it is hugely important that we think about language and how we communicate with our customers. More important than that, though, probably, is the issue of culture. And for example, in China, I've seen a company who went to a trade fair, and one of their corporate gifts was a clock, and they were trying to give out the clocks to potential customers, and nobody wanted one. And the reason is that if you give a clock to a Chinese person, it's a very bad omen. It's a sign of imminent death. It is not something that you'd want to do. You need to think about if you're dealing in Muslim countries. I routinely in this country will hand things with my left hand or right hand. In Muslim countries, you would not want to use your left hand. Your left hand is unclean. You would want to hand with your right hand. I've seen people, I'm going to demonstrate, literally put their left hand behind their back to give something with their right hand in Muslim countries. You need to think about branding and how that works in foreign countries too. Classic story, two classic stories actually. The first is about Vauxhall, and Vauxhall tried to introduce their car, the Nova, into Spain. Well, that didn't work because Nova means doesn't work. So the Vauxhall doesn't work is not a great idea for a brand in Spain. And a baby food manufacturer had great product, baby milk, and they were operating in Africa and wondered why, with their lovely tin with a picture of a lovely baby on the side, wasn't working. Well, it transpired that what had happened there was that they were in a country where literacy rates were very low, and it was traditional in that marketplace for tinned products to have a picture of the description of what was inside the tin on the outside. To have a picture of a nice baby on the outside of a tin wasn't working for them. They duly changed the packaging and everything was all right. Look, these are funny examples, but they're examples where people have got it hopelessly wrong, and they've then been able to correct it and to improve. My recommendation is that what you need to do is to do a complete export communications review. UKTI can help you with that, the Chamber of Commerce, the Growth Hub. We can all point you in the direction of people that can help you to do a complete export communications review. But you need to think about some aspects, and I have a list here. So, for example, you need to think about localization of your product and service through appropriate language. Think of the baby food manufacturer. You need to think about using your agents and distributors or partners. Are they the people that are going to help you to adapt? Where would a customer contact you through? If the customer is going to contact you through using your switchboard, or your switchboard operator ought to have a few words of different foreign languages maybe, particularly if your key foreign languages are, for example, Chinese or Russian or whatever. Maybe just giving them a nice impression and a nice feel when they phone into your switchboard. You think about how much needs to be translated generally. I've seen many businesses at trade fairs that have a complete technical pack of information all in their home language, but have a small data sheet that's translated into the local language that gives them a feel for what's going on. But then if they need more information, then they need to go there. So it doesn't necessarily mean that absolutely every word and every sentence needs to be translated into every language, but you do need to think about how you're going to do that. You need to think about regulations. Sorry to harp on about regulations, but there are many products, particularly in chemicals, etc., that require data sheets. And if you need a data sheet, it's a technical data sheet, or you need instruction manuals or whatever, I think it's really important that you have considered the language that you're going to get them translated into, and make sure that the translation is right. It helps here if you have a native speaker to do the translations, because they really understand it. I've seen too many bad examples of translation to know how important it is to make sure that you do a proper sanity check on the translation when you get to it. You need to use your website better. If you have a website and it is purely in English, then you're communicating only to the English-speaking world. That's fine if that's all your market is. But if you want to look to French, you want to look to Italians, you want to look to Koreans, Japanese, whatever, you need to think about translating. And it's very simple. You have a little flag at the top of your website, you press on that button, and lo and behold, you get even the splash page just in a different language. This all helps. You need to think about interpreters. Interpreters are interesting. You can have an interpreter that simply listens to what you say, then translates by sentence. But actually, a good use of an interpreter is vital. I've used them in different countries, where the interpreter is not only interpreting what I'm saying, but they're listening for what's going on in the conversation. So I've picked up little hints and tips about where their prices were going to be. So I've understood from him later about what was really going on behind the scenes. So using your interpreter not simply to be a translator, but to be your eyes and ears within the negotiating process can be equally important. And think about culture affecting negotiations. It affects tastes, it affects fashions, it affects deep-rooted, sometimes religious beliefs. And my final advice here is be prepared. Do not take the advice of that old Victorian travel guide that said whenever you travel overseas, you only need to know 2 phrases in any foreign language. The first is, do you speak English? And then just in case the unfortunate answer is no, you need to know, well then fetch me someone who does. That's not going to cut it anymore in the modern world. Shouting louder, asking for somebody to speak English isn't the way forward.